Sunny ways, my friends. Sunny ways.
Your 16 seconds are up. I'm going to ask you again because nobody believes you when you say you don't know how much money your family has got from the wheat group. You've had a month to look into that. You knew you were going to testify here. Again, how much money total have your brother, mother, and spouse received from this organization? How much?
That information has been publicly shared. I will highlight.
Well, then tell me what it is.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
We have recently switched to drinking water bottles out of water out of when we have water bottles out of plastic. Away from plastic towards paper, like drink box water bottles. Sorry.
The servicing costs on the debt that you're going to have to carry that you're adding to now, right?
Interest rates are at historic lows, Glenn.
Where's the funds?
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean? Oh, Justin, you're awake. You made it. Have a seat. Have a coffee. You need some. Wakey time.
Let's cut that Disney Plus subscription. So we cut it. It's only $13.99 a month that we're saving, but every little bit helps.
A lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but...
Like who?
I don't know who, but...
Well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
You must know somebody. Yeah, that's all that's coming off. There's nothing else coming off, yeah. I'm not Justin Trudeau here. Let's fucking go!
Let's fucking go.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. It's just me tonight. There's nobody else here. Mrs. Fringe is in bed. I have no crazy speakers coming on tonight to talk about politics. Tonight's kind of just a rando stream. I have to apologize for the late time, as I was kind of wrestling with the idea of whether or not I even go live tonight. But there's things we got to talk about. There's things we got to address, and things that I think are important. I know a lot of people already. We have more people in here than we did for last night's stream. So some people here missed the shenanigans that went on last night, and we're going to clear the air on that and talk about it a little, because I'm worried that there were some misconceptions as to the purpose of last night's stream. Not that I feel I need an explanation, but listen, I've always said that part of the reason I come here is to hang out with you guys. We have the best community on the platform, which reminds me, if you're not a part of that community yet, hit that subscribe button. YouTube has been suppressing this channel for 2 weeks now. It's unbelievable, just with the election coming up in the US, with all of our politics up in the air in Canada, just how much that if you're not doing the, hey, look what Trudeau did videos, you're just getting pushed down. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, get a thumbs up in the stream. Let's push this out there. Let's get a roll call going on, because we skipped it last night. Join into the chat. Let me know where you're watching from. If it's your first time here, let me know where you're watching from. Let's see if we can get one person from every single province here in the country. And I'll try to get to as many people as I'll be. We're almost up to 300 viewers already, guys. It's packed in here so far. I thought it was going to be quiet at this time of night, but let's go, guys. Throw it up in the chat. Again, if it's your first time, let me know. Paul coming in from Winnipeg, welcome in. We got Almont Gaming coming in, Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta. We got Jordo from Southwest Saskatchewan with the LFGs. We got Mr. Bojangles coming in with Manitoba. Stinger coming in from Glenbrook, Ontario. Peggy from Central Saskatchewan. Linda from Foam Lake, Saskatchewan. A lot of Saskatchewan folks in here. Congratulations, by the way, on Scott Moe getting his chair in the previous election this week. James Meeker coming in from Ottawa, Ontario. Angry Rabbit from BC. SW coming in from Fort Saskatchewan. We got L. Cox coming in from good old Calgary. James coming in from Sudbury, Ontario. Melanie from Ontario as well. We've got Knights Light coming from Kamloops. Terry Lee with the LFG from Calgary as well. Welcome into all of you in the stream. We've got Wayne and Vicky Jackson coming in from Red Deer. Jim Brown, member of the Patriots Club, thank you so much, coming in from Woodstock, Ontario. We've got Dan coming in, or Don. I'm sorry, Don. The text is really small on the software I use, but Don's coming in from Calgary. We got Zaomi coming in from Mississauga, Ontario. First-time viewer, welcome to the Fringe. Welcome to our live streams. Great to have you here. Political Junkie coming in from Kelowna. Welcome in, Rick. It's great to have you here. We got Brent Beach coming in from Texas. God, I love Texas. Welcome in, Brent. It's great to have you here. Welcome to all of our American viewers. Freedom Honey coming in from Beaver County, Alberta. Freedom Honey Mike, welcome in. It's great to have you back at the streams. We've got Nana Nora coming in from Medicine Hat. Robert coming in from Hamilton, Ontario. We've got Helen Powers from Minto, New Brunswick. Welcome in. It's great to have you here. Barry from Sudbury, Ontario. We got Karen Lysak. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, Karen. Coming in from Orilla, Ontario. Welcome in. It's great to have you here. We've got Mr. Excuses coming in from a tent in Toronto. Listen, I don't blame you if you're truly in a tent, but Mr. Excuses, that should be my name because it seems to be prolific on this channel. Mystical chimed in while at work. Mystical, welcome in. It's great to have you here. Sportman Music coming in from Baltimore in Maryland in the USA. God, who was that guy on last night? Anyways, we're going to get into that. I got a lot to talk about on that one, but it's great to have you in here. It's good to have American viewers in here. Love our American viewers. Good luck to you guys again this upcoming week. We want Trump 2024, so let's go. Prairie coming in from Western Manitoba. We got Arthur coming in from Cranbrook. Radio Reaction joining us from Ajax, Ontario. Great YouTube channel, by the way, guys. Go follow Radio Reaction. Yeah, a lot of people coming in from Saskatchewan. We got Mike coming in from Landmark, Manitoba. MTL Ryder coming in from Montreal. NA with a first time. Nick from Washington State, US. I was in Washington State over the summer. Took my kids to Grand Mound, Washington. We took them to Great Wolf Lodge. Beautiful part of the country. The mountains near there. Driving from, where did we drive from? Spokane. We went from Spokane into Grand Mound, and just a gorgeous drive. Absolutely beautiful part of the country. We've got WDH coming in from Edmonton. Oil Patch Mark coming in from Sylvan Lake. I appreciate the compliment. Thank you so much. Danny from Edmonton. We got Von Claude from BC. Welcome in. We've got Yev coming in from Grand Prairie, Alberta. Of course, Diana the Regular coming in from Medicine Hat. We've got Melanie coming in from Newfoundland, I believe that is. If NL is Newfoundland, welcome in. If I've messed that up, please let me know in the chat. Nelson coming in from Miramichi, New Brunswick. Welcome in. Margaret, Saskatchewan. Yes, Scott Moe, absolutely was happy to see that. Melanie Freer coming in from Niagara Falls. We got Paul from Red Deer County. Master of Snatch jumping in as well to the stream. Snatch, it's great to have you here. Derek saying, I never got notifications you were going live last night from Millbrook, Ontario. A lot of people didn't get notifications. It was probably for the best. I'm going to get into that. Here we go. Maggie from Ontario, welcome in. It's good. It's good to have you in here. We've got Moose on 2 coming from Chilliwack, BC. Great to have you in the stream. Welcome in. We got Monique coming in from Sudbury, Ontario. This is Moose on 2. Is this an alt Moose on the Loose channel? I don't know. I doubt it. But hey, if it is, welcome in. It's great to have you. Frank J coming in from Guelph. It's great to have you in as well. I'm trying to get through the comments, guys. I know we're just doing the roll call, but we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it tonight. We got Sheldon from PG coming in BC as well. It's great to have you here. We got Carl, first timer from Edmonton. Love your work. I love that you love my work. Thank you for coming in and joining us tonight on this late stream. It's great to have you in. We got Steve-O coming in from London, Ontario. Great to have you on the stream. We've got JCP. I should start doing it in Peter. We got Connie coming in from Calgary. What else we got going on? And here's Sarge over here coming in from Logan Lake, British Columbia. Mike Harder from your home province, landmark Manitoba. Yeah, I love Manitoba. Born and raised in Winnipeg. I've always loved Manitoba. Um, Guys, I got to get caught up. There's so much in the chat right now. I apologize to everybody who is chiming in. I can see people in the US, people in Canada chiming in, people jumping in. We're over 400 strong in the stream now. Get those thumbs ups in there, guys. Let's have a good little friendly chat tonight. Let's have a fun let loose chat, because this is more like a hangout tonight than anything else. We'll discuss things. I'll take your Q&A, but first we got to clear the air. So he says the Peter Griffin. Oh God, you love my Peter Griffin. Oh my God, that's awesome. Let's get into last night's stream, because that's the elephant in the room. Let's clear things up. Listen, I had a different perspective of what last night's stream was going to be. Now, the stream had to be pulled because unfortunately some topics were brought up that go against YouTube censors, and the stream was demonetized. And the big problem, I could leave it up, but the biggest issue is that when you have those things on the channel, it doesn't help the reputation of the channel, especially when YouTube is suppressing things so much as it is. So I pulled the stream, I removed it. So my apologies to anybody who missed out on that, who didn't see it. And then, like I said, it's probably for the best, because there was a misunderstanding. I had a colleague of mine, Rexer, on the channel last night, because I've followed Rexer's YouTube channel for quite some time. Rexer is a YouTube channel out in the arcade community, and I quite like his tutorial videos on arcade repairs, on mods, on his opinions when it comes to some of the quality when it comes to the 3/4 scale arcades like that are behind me. So you know, I'm very active in his community. So when he first had mentioned he was thinking about getting out of arcades and getting into politics, I reached out and said, "Hey, if you're getting into politics, I could use a little bit of an education in American politics, because as a Canadian, again, I know a little bit about American stuff, but I don't know everything there is to know about it, even though I have my views when it comes to who I think should be running the country and why." I thought it was going to be a good roundtable discussion, because Rexer told me straight from the beginning, straight from the get-go. As soon as I told him that I was very pro-Trump, he said he was very anti-Trump. Now, my good friend Theo Fleury, shout out to Theo, by the way. He's always said with his Canadians for Truth program that he often wants to get somebody from the left on one of his shows. And it's not to make a mockery out of them. It's not to shame them or guilt them or try to convince them that they're wrong, but it's more to have a civil discussion about, why is it you feel this way about politics? Here's why we feel the way we feel about politics. Let's try and see if we can meet somewhere in the middle, that there's good and bad on both sides. And I've said it often, guys. You've seen me criticize Pierre Poilievre when Pierre does weird things. You've seen me criticize Danielle Smith when she makes weird calls. You have to question your government. Now, the initial proposal for the show was that Rexer didn't know a lot about Canadian politics. I didn't know a lot about American politics. So it was more going to be a comparison of why he feels certain candidates were the best for the job in America, why I feel certain candidates are best for the job in Canada. Rexer is a very vocal person when it came to arcades, his opinions. He obviously brought some of that over to the show last night, and a lot of people took notice. I noticed in the chat, a lot of people took notice that Rexer wasn't letting me get a word in. He wasn't letting me talk. He talked over me many times. And I got to tell you, I appreciate everyone's concern in the chat, but this is where I think the misconception of last night's stream kind of took hold, because I saw it one way, and I don't think the viewers saw it the other. I think if you watched me during that stream, anytime Rexer was talking about things like climate change, when he was talking about the deficits, when he was talking about inflation, when he was talking about mail-in ballots, I was sitting here smiling, chuckling, kind of just like playing it off, letting him dig his own hole, because he was essentially proving any point that I had to come up with a rebuttal on why his points were so silly and ludicrous from the standpoint of a right-wing voter. Especially when he mentioned Google many times, said, go look for the information. There's also information for the arguments I was making. And what I found humorous about it was, at one point I kind of said, look, I'm going to be polite. I'm not going to embarrass my guests. I'm not going to lash out at my guests, because I'm usually a pretty easygoing guy. I'm not really one to push back and fight unless somebody threatens me. And I kind of thought by being silent and just letting this person ramble on. I mean, the chat was obviously heated. You guys were upset. The stream went right off the reins as to what I had planned it out to be. That I kind of just let it go and found it funny that you've got a left wing guy coming in here talking about all of these things that he believes in politics as if my audience is going to adopt those opinions. Like he's trying to convince everybody that these are the right opinions to have. And again, he's entitled to have those things. I've often said, and I said after the stream when we wound up, that this is why it's important to go out and vote, because while it's his opinion and he's entitled to it, I think there were many points he made last night that were incorrect. Even with my lack of knowledge when it comes to U.S. politics. But again, as a host, I was trying to be nice, but there were some people saying you were being too nice. Some of my peers had reached out and said, look, I couldn't watch. It was kind of like you laid down and let them walk all over you. This is where I wanted to clear the air, guys. Old Fringe here. I'm not letting anybody do anything. I know how it may have seemed, and this is where I'm saying I thought it was funny. I thought it was going to be comedic in a sense because I didn't have to call anything out because my audience knew better and he was digging his own hole. That I kind of just let him go. and when it all ended and I thought it was funny, many people, including Mrs. Fringe, had said, geez, you should have pushed back a little. You should have put him in his place. You should have said something. You should have shown some teeth. I try to put myself together as a decent host, a respectful host. I don't want anybody to ever feel threatened to come on this channel. And I honestly thought it was going to be a good conversation, even if we agreed to disagree, to get both sides of the spectrum out there. And it didn't work out that way. It didn't end up going that way. So this isn't an apology by any means for last night's stream. It's more just an explanation that, hey, sometimes, you throw shit at the wall and hope that it sticks. You have some ideas. I certainly don't want to clown too much on Rexer because he's not here to defend himself. Again, I don't feel it's responsible to do that. He's entitled to his opinions. I happen to think that they're very incorrect and wrong. But he's allowed to believe what he wants to believe, and I'm not going to fault him for that. I just think that we could have had a more productive conversation had I have been allowed to get a word in or two. And we spoke after the stream. I thanked him for coming on the show. He thanked me for being a good host, and for not making it, too antagonistic against him. I don't know if that's what he was looking for, but I know it wasn't what the audience was looking for. So all I can tell you folks is that I will not attempt to do an experimental stream like that again. I'm looking for talking points. You have to understand that what I try to do on this channel is open people's eyes when it comes to the world of politics. There are fabulous channels out there like The Pleb, Moose on the Loose, Clinton Jaws. I know they all watch this channel. That do all the, you'll never guess what happened in this interview. You never guess what Trudeau said. And I know I cover those things too. But I'm trying to do a broader look at the world of politics, a broader look into this is how we got here. This is what we need to do to get out of here. This is how things get fixed. Part of the problem I feel when it comes to our political landscape is that, as I said with last night's stream, we have lost our way when it comes to discussing politics. It now turns into a situation where it's almost like sports teams. Like, as I said on last night's stream, my team needs to win over your team. It's not based on policy anymore. It's on the popular vote. It's who do I like more? Who does the funnier gifs, the gags? Who has the best memes? Who put the other one in their place and owned them, alongside some good suggestions as to how they want to carry policy forward. But for the majority, it's a popularity contest. I think everybody can agree on that. At least in media, it seems to be that way. Now, when I was growing up as a kid in the 80s and 90s, I was always told that it's rude to discuss politics anywhere. And that was often the case. I never heard my parents talking politics with anybody, especially friends of the family or anything like that, relatives. Nobody really ever discussed anything. Maybe the occasional remark about Brian Mulrooney when I was growing up or something, especially when the GST was rolling out. But for the most part, I didn't really start getting into politics until I was in my early 20s when, I got to the age where I could vote. I started to pay attention a little bit more. Those were the days where, again, I was watching the Air Force. You had Ross, or I almost said Ross Perot. You, you had the Reform Party, and you had Stockwell Day going on jet skis, and Jean Chrétien running for prime minister, and um, I was trying to learn exactly what policies meant, what was better to vote for, and get a little educated. And even then, didn't discuss politics very often with my friends. Again, unless something absolutely crazy happened, politics really didn't become popular to discuss in an open forum, at least in public, I feel, until toward the end of the Stephen Harper era, where it started to pick up a little bit with people's dismays over decisions with China, and then the Justin Trudeau decade, where everything just kind of went to shit. And it's only natural we talk about politics because it's now affecting our day-to-day life. It's affecting everything that we do. It affects what we buy in stores. It affects our cost of living. It's affecting our jobs. It's affecting what we're paying for houses. It's everywhere. Naturally, people are fed up. People are in dismay. They're going to talk about it. So I think when it comes to discussing politics, again, I'm a pretty laid back guy despite my neuroticism on this channel, despite the energy I put forward when I'm talking to people. I can be pretty tolerant to hear somebody explain why they think something needs to be a certain way. But when you're going to tell me that, yes, I'll agree that climate change has happened for millions of years, but we're the ones destroying it now, that ice caps are melting, that all this other stuff is going on, you get to the point where you start saying, boy, some people are a special kind of stupid. Um, because they bring up science, and science has proven that these kind of changes have been going on for millions of years. I've mentioned it many times here on the stream that where I live used to be a tropical paradise. It was palm trees and no snow. Dinosaurs roamed this province in abundancy. Now we get 6 months a year of snow and ice. It's things change. For anybody who doesn't believe in climate change, I'd hate to discuss things like continental drift theory with them, or anything else that's happened to this planet over the millions of years that it's existed. Do I disagree that fossil fuels are bad for the air? Absolutely not. In fact, when I went with my family to Los Angeles last year, it had been one of the first times I'd been out there since my wife and I were married in 2006. And I can tell you that with the introduction of electric vehicles and things like that, that there was less smog hanging over the city. You could actually go into Hollywood and look and see downtown without a hazy cloud of gas and CO2 sitting over top of the city. So yes, there are improvements that are happening all the time. And as I said in last night's stream, I don't think that we shouldn't be looking in investing our technologies to improve things. Of course we should, but we're not there yet. You can't flick a switch. You can't get there overnight, and paying taxes doesn't change the weather. I'm sorry, that's not how it works. I mean, it doesn't matter how many billions you give the government, they can't stop the snow from falling, they can't stop rain from coming in, they can't make hurricanes go away, they can't stop earthquakes from happening. Whatever happens is going to happen. Those things don't have an effect on whether or not we're driving vehicles on the road, or um, drilling for oil. That's not how it works. Regardless, um, the apology I do owe this channel is that I didn't realize that stream was going to derail as fast as it did. I had planned it to be far more controlled. It was going to be a discussion, not a rant. And for that portion, I'll apologize to my viewers because, I seen some people starting to worry during that stream that this was going to upset the channel, that it was going to do some things to this channel. And I kept thinking, where is nobody getting the joke here? Like, this is kind of funny. I found it kind of funny. But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to worry about it anymore. That will not happen again, I can assure you. Again, I'm not taking shots at people here. I'm saying that that format won't be back. Um, no, there's no mouth of the South. And I seen you in the chat last night. No, this isn't technically an apology. It's more, I apologize to those who had a hard time watching it. Um, it was controlled, but not by you. Well, that was the thing, was that I didn't think, again, I found it funny. If I knew that people were looking for control, I would have happily controlled the conversation a little bit better. I didn't want it to feel like an episode of Piers Morgan where I come in, ranting and raving and stomping down on everything. I really wanted it, because of how ludicrous some of the comments were. I literally just sat back and said, you just keep going. You just keep digging. You're doing a good job on your own. I don't have to do anything here. I can just sit back and watch this burn, because you're essentially making any point that you make less valid by the continuous ranting. It's Derek, why do I have to hear about these hilarious burns secondhand through Snatch? Noob, I have no idea what you're talking about. Um, it's no, I'm not apologizing on somebody else's behalf. I'm more apologizing that that I didn't realize that the audience wanted me to take more control. Um, Again, I saw it a certain way. I saw it as entertaining. I saw it as funny. But the audience saw it as a dumpster fire, as a train wreck, and that's my apology for not being on the same wavelength, and taking control either. Um, Here it comes. Here it comes. I enjoy your channel, but you should realize your thought about comedy allowed Rex to disrespect us. Hopefully, you understand that. He was disrespecting his own integrity. He didn't disrespect Canadians at any point. I don't think that he said anything negative about Canadians. I think that's a bit of a stretch. I mean, you're free to your opinion. Um, JCP saying I couldn't watch, tried several times. I get it, and that's why I wanted to address this, because I probably should have done something earlier. I guess I was trying to see where it was going to go, and honestly, I had a plan for that stream, like I said, for it to be a back and forth conversation. I thought it was going to be a lot more relaxed. And by the time we got about 25 minutes in and it was off the rails, there really wasn't much I could do at that point besides shut it down. Um, it's it is what it is. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think he came across as a misinformed American, but not a stereotypical American. I know a lot of Americans, and I'll tell you right now that they're very patriotic. I think that the ones that are educated are going to make the right choice when it comes to this election. I F it, we'll do it live. Says PXN. It's well, and that's so James hits it right there as to why I didn't really take the controls, because you can't reason with anybody. You're not what I'm getting at, and what I mentioned again earlier, and I'm not going to keep going in circles. I'll just wrap it up here for you guys. When you have somebody like that is so convinced that they stand behind their convictions, that there's nothing I could have said to alter the conversation, to change somebody's mind, to make them listen to what I had to say. Um, Essentially, you're not going to win. It's almost like Sisyphus. You're pushing a boulder up a never-ending hill at that point, just trying to get through to somebody. So unless I wanted to look completely ignorant and rude by shutting it down, saying, get out of here, go away, which I know a lot of people would have loved. There's a certain way that I control myself. There's a certain way that I project myself, that I behave when I have guests in my house on my channel. That doesn't mean that I'm going to let somebody come in here and stomp their shoes and get mud all over my house when they're in it. But I didn't see it that way until the stream had ended. And like I said, I started to think about, here's how the audience probably saw it. And again, that's why I wanted to kind of come on and explain, is that it's not an apology just so much as I'm sorry our wires got crossed, and I saw it one way while everybody else saw it another. Because I can assure you, had I have felt attacked in that, or had I have felt like I was being disrespected at any point, believe me, I would have had no issue saying something. I just think there's a way that you should handle yourself when conducting those interviews, when having a guest on your show, because it speaks to my character, and the way he behaves speaks to his character. He was talking to me about starting up a political podcast where he's got guys who are pro-Trump, he's anti-Trump, and they were all going to have like a round table podcast. I wish him all the luck in the world with that, because I don't see anybody wanting to listen to that when he's the only guy getting his words in. He has to show, and Rex, if you're watching, just no muss, no fuss, buddy, but you got to let people get their opinions in sometime if you're going to have a decent round table discussion. You got to allow people to hear what you're saying, but also hear what they're saying and take in their facts at the end of the day. It was a very one-sided conversation. Sisyphus is a term you don't hear every day. Well, it's, if you're not educated, it's a good one. In fact, the Sisyphus conundrum is one of the things that really questions a lot of things in my life. Is this worth the effort? Am I going to keep pushing a boulder up the hill? Or do I just let the boulder go and say to hell with it and move on? That being said, we should move on. But I hope that clears the air for everybody. Again, if anybody thought that I was laying down, I apologize. That certainly wasn't what I was attempting to make it look like. I do understand if that's how it looked. But again, that's not how I roll. And you guys won't have to worry about that in the future. So let's move on. Let's talk about a few things. As L. Cox says, next, let's get on with things. Let's talk about what's happening now in politics. What's going on? Because we had. Let's talk about the videos that have dropped. Radio reaction. People seem to like Dragon's Lair a lot. Hey, did you intentionally move to show your Dragon's Lair? No. So when I bring out my equipment, like I'm in my family room right now, and I wheel out my desk, my camera, everything every time I do a show. I try to put my desk in the same spot every time. I know it doesn't always work out that way, so I think it's just a matter of how the camera ended up this time around. But hey, it is what it is. But that being said, I put out a video today, and our videos are just getting absolutely buried. And I know they're being buried by YouTube, because if I watch the views per minute, the way that the video is being received, average videos, the lines, the bars, they kind of go on a wave. They cascade up, they plateau, they sit for a while, and then they slowly come down. It's like a wavy pattern. Anytime I launch a video and it looks like a heart rate monitor, meaning that when a video gets a lot of views per minute, and then all of a sudden you see it, drop off for multiple minutes and then get another big boost, that's when you can tell that YouTube's pulling out all the stops to make sure that people aren't getting that information pushed. For a company that says that they don't openly admit to shadow banning, they make it very hard to to argue for the latter. But it's let's talk about what happened with Justin Trudeau. I talked in that video about why I think that an election is coming, why I think it's coming sooner than later. Let's get your guys' opinion out in the chat, because a lot of the people have been saying to me that, hey, I don't think I'll believe it when I see it. It's not going to happen. Trudeau's going to skate free. It's never going to. And I get it. I get everybody's sick and tired of it. I get people are sick and tired anytime we talk about these things. But as a YouTube channel that specializes in politics, when the news comes out that, hey, people are talking about a silent ballot vote, hey, the Bloc is going to try to, pull down Trudeau's party and force an election, I have to report on those things, guys. We got to talk about them, or else you guys are going to come in and say, hey, how come every other channel talked about this and you're not? Do you not care? And then I'd sit there and say, but I thought you guys don't like those things. It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. But nonetheless, guys, here's why I think the vote is going to happen. Trudeau is scrambling. He's got Chrystia Freeland right now saying that, hey, let's not give into that ballot vote. Let's not do any of that shenanigans. We're all united, guys. Let's all get on the same page. Trudeau saying, no, we need to start thinking about Canadians. You should have done that 10 years ago, you jackass. You don't get to start thinking about Canadians because there's an election coming and because you're losing the support of your party. Two things are happening here. There's a very large handful of MPs that want Justin Trudeau to exit, that are very dismayed with him because they're trying to protect their own jobs. And you've also they're wanting to bring in Mark Carney. They're wanting to bring in carbon tax Carney because we're sitting 1 year away from the deadline to a federal election. But there's also multiple parties in the House now talking about bringing down Justin Trudeau's regime, forcing an election. And if that were to happen, the people who are scrambling in the Liberal Party to protect their jobs are now at risk, because if an election is called, there's a very good chance the majority of them are going to lose their seats. They won't get their pensions, and they're out the door. So what they're trying to do right now is do a little bit of damage. They're essentially standing on the sinking ship, trying to patch the hole with Mark Carney's 2x4s, and Justin Trudeau isn't giving them the nails. If that's a good analogy as to what's going on. It's Trudeau's hubris knows no bounds. He's not going to step down. He's not going to leave. It doesn't matter if 99% of the party says he should get out. He is convinced that he will run against Pierre Poilievre in the next election. But what I think is going to happen, where I believe that we're going to see an election, is that now that Blanchette and the Bloc has come out saying that they are going to make sure Trudeau's party falls, in his exact word, you now have the Bloc and the Conservatives coming out. You have Jagmeet Singh coming out saying that, hey, we're thinking about Canadians. We're going to protect Justin Trudeau. And it's really, Mr. I tore up the agreement. You're going to protect Justin Trudeau. Of course you are. You want your golden parachute. That's all it is. Jagmeet Singh might as well come out and just say, I want my golden parachute. I'm not calling an election. It has nothing to do with Justin Trudeau. I just want my pension. But what you do have to turn the tide right now, and where I think that Chrystia Freeland and Justin Trudeau are putting their foots in their mouths, is they're telling these other MPs in their caucus that want to have this secret ballot vote because they don't want to be known for voicing their dismay. They want the secret ballot vote so that they may discover there's more than 40 MPs, more than 30, that have an issue with Justin Trudeau. They don't want the vote. If we do a vote of non-confidence with the government, if these MPs who are texting the Conservatives from the bathroom that Pierre Poilievre's talking about, all of a sudden are brought out to be told, hey, look, Conservatives are going to put forward a motion of non-confidence. The Bloc is going to vote for that motion. We need a few more people to get on board. Are you telling me that you don't think that any of those dismayed MPs in the Liberal Party, if they're being ignored on a secret ballot vote, mean that they absolutely will not stand up and vote no confidence in Justin Trudeau? I'll tell you why they'll do it. Or at least some of them will do it. Because if they're that worried about their riding, part of the article I read yesterday or in today's video said that what they've told Justin Trudeau is that they have to listen to their constituents. And their constituents are telling them that enough is enough. If they were to stand up against Justin Trudeau in a non-confidence vote in their own party, not only does it speak volumes, but even if an election were called at that point, it is a way to get Justin Trudeau out the door, but it is also a way for them to hopefully try and jump on the grenade to secure their ridings by saying, look, guys, you said you had enough of Justin Trudeau. We stood up. We said something. We've had enough of him too. We didn't just sit back and blindly support him. We didn't just get him to the election and hope that everything was going to be okay. We didn't follow him into the depths of hell. I think for a lot of Liberal MPs that have dismay against Justin Trudeau, a vote of non-confidence is the only legal way at this point that they can get Justin Trudeau out of office while also trying to secure their ridings. Not that I think they deserve them. But this is where I'm saying that when everybody's talking that I don't think it's going to happen, it's never going to happen, you have to look at every angle from a strategist's point of view. If you take in the data, if Pierre Poilievre is telling the truth, that there are Liberal MPs texting them from the bathrooms that are scared about Justin Trudeau finding out that they're passing information. You don't think that Pierre and the Conservatives or the Bloc can convince these MPs that, hey, all of this goes away if you guys just stand up and vote in favor of an election? I think the possibilities of an election are very, very strong. Whether or not it's going to happen, I don't know, because that's the thing about politics. I keep in close contact with a few MPs in the House of Commons. I talk to people who look at politics from a grand scale of things, people that I've met in the news industry, and I ask them all the opinions. And even those who are in the House of Commons, the assistants to those MPs even tell me it's all up in the air. It's we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You know, we'll get briefings on someone's holding a press conference. Somebody's going to, you know, talk about this or talk about that, or there's rumblings going on about a non-confidence vote being put forward. But they say that none of it's predictable. Anything can change. If these MPs that have a disheartened take on Justin Trudeau were to say, tomorrow we're going to vote non-confidence, and again, the word gets out to the Liberal Party that, hey, these guys are going to stand up, they're going to wreck it all. You can't tell me the night before that Justin Trudeau is not going to try to find a way to get them to stick on his side, that he might offer them kickbacks or he might offer them some kind of deal. You have to remember that these people are willing to sell their souls for anything. They already have. I don't believe that Mark Carney coming in is their only solution. So even if they were to say tomorrow, we feel that they're going to vote non-confidence, overnight, somebody can change that. And the next day, the unpredictable happens. So what I have to look at is speculatory from the information I've seen the media reporting on, from the information from in question period, from the information from Justin Trudeau's own meetings. When you splice it all together, you're looking at a very large group of people that are dissatisfied in their own party with Justin Trudeau. And they don't have a reform policy like the Conservatives. So don't forget, in the Conservative Party, if 20 MPs or more, I believe it is, sign a reform clause, they can actually request that a new leader be provided for the party. The NDP don't have that clause, I believe, and the Liberals do not, because Justin Trudeau amended that when he became Prime Minister. So a secret ballot vote does nothing more than vote everyone's dismay. If you have publicly 20 MPs saying we don't like Justin Trudeau, you may end up with 60 that vote in favor of a secret ballot because they don't want their names to be known. All that does is give the Liberal Party more of a heads up that, hey, there's a very strong percentage of people in here that don't really like you being in the room. But if you want them gone, calling an election at this point is about the only way it's going to happen. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Stinger says it too. A secret ballot does zero. All it does is it gives them optics. It gives them an idea of the dismay within their party, because it doesn't matter if 99% of the MPs vote in a secret ballot to say, Justin Trudeau, you got to leave. He won't leave. He won't leave. He's like that house guest that just sticks around, you know, that where you're like, is your ride coming? And they go, yeah, they'll come eventually. That's Justin Trudeau. He doesn't want to leave. It doesn't matter how bad it is. He's not going anywhere. The only way you're going to do it is forcing an election at this point. I can tell you this right now. No matter how many videos come out between now and next election about, hey, look, I think an election's coming. Election's on its way. There's rumblings of an election. I know you guys get tired of it again. I have to talk about it. I've got an obligation to talk about it, covering Canadian politics. However, I do believe in my heart of hearts that Justin Trudeau will not make it to October of 2025. I don't think that no matter what happens, we will not see this ride out until October 2025. There are a number of scenarios that can occur right now. He could prorogue Parliament and just hide like he's always done. He's very good at that. And then maybe after winter break, we see an election called. I don't know where it's going to go from here. But if you listen to Blanchette yesterday on today's video, when he said, we are now putting the wheels in motion to make this government fall, they've got their mindset. The Conservatives have their mindset. And the pressure is going to be on in the House of Commons, because you now have two major parties pushing against the government saying, Enough is enough. It's time for you to go. Jagmeet will stick with JT. Yeah, of course he will. Of course he will. But you may see other NDP MPs that start to disagree with Jagmeet Singh because they look, Jagmeet knows what he's here for and his party knows what he's here for. They know that he's just limping through to get what he wants. What happens to their jobs? I'll tell you right now, if I was a working guy in the House of Commons and Jagmeet Singh was my boss, God, that would suck. If I was standing there and he said, look, we just got to stick with this guy. We got to stick with this guy. And I kept saying, yeah, but I got a family to look after too. If another party came to me and said, look, we just force an election and all this ends and you might be able to save your seat. Do you think I'm going to go home and tell my family I lost my job? My seat, my riding, everything I worked for my entire life because some guy with a turban wrapped around his head so tight that he can't think straight wants his pension? You think my wife would respect me if I threw away my career because I stood behind a incompetent moron that just wanted taxpayer money? I think you're going to run into people who secretly start to admit that they will start being willing to vote in favor of forcing an election. Because as these ships and these other parties sink, and again, I mentioned it back in the new year when we had the first vote for non-confidence after that petition that went out over Christmas last year. I even said it in that video. You're watching the funerals for the NDP and the Liberal parties. They're done. Their constituents won't vote them in again. Now, statistically, 68% of the country is mentally challenged in terms of intelligence. That is an actual statistic. Below IQ levels, we'll say, normal IQ levels. There are people on the right side that vote that are below those IQ levels as well. Don't think that I'm just saying if you're on the left, it means you're stupid. But but there are a lot of people who are susceptible to believe what those parties tell them regardless. But I know for what I'm seeing in the polls, and it's reflective in the polls, it's reflective in the ridings. Anytime we've seen these by-elections happening, there are people that typically vote for those parties that aren't voting for them right now. They've had enough. Those people have to worry about their jobs. Not every one of them gets a pension if they ride it out till 2025 and Jagmeet Singh sinks the NDP party along with Trudeau's Liberals. There's going to come a point where it's eat or be eaten. It's us or them. And those MPs will have to make a decision. Now, is that going to happen next week? I don't know. Is it going to happen tomorrow? Probably not. Is it going to happen before October? Absolutely. I 100% believe we are going to see an election long before October. Danny's saying a dirty election campaign by Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet will swing many unpatriotic Canadians. But here's the thing, Danny. I think again when you look at the current polling numbers, Trudeau can shovel shit all he wants, but I don't think anybody's buying what he's selling. You know, he can offer, hey, we're going to give you money. We're going to top up your Canada Child benefit. We're going to give you a tax break. We're going to do all these wonderful things. People need to start being smarter when it comes to the elections to realize that every 4 years, whether you're in a municipality, whether you're voting provincially, whether you're voting federally, all of a sudden, everyone's your best friend. They all come out with these promises of the world and they say, we're going to give you all these great things. We're going to give you money. We're going to give you a break. We're going to make life easier for you. And you start thinking, man, they're really good at what they're doing. They really have my interests at heart. And then you vote them in and they go, gotcha. And they find other means to do things. And they leave those promises in the dirt. You don't see anything come of them. And then you end up for 4 more years feeling burned and saying, well, I'm not going to vote for those guys again. But then everyone forgets when election season comes around again and they start going, hey, remember us? We love you. And everyone goes, oh, yeah, you do. I think we're past that phase. A lot of the data that we're seeing from polling offices from, again, from actual by-elections is those numbers are pretty solid and people have had enough. I mean, if that's who you want to vote for whoever you like. look, I have a problem with Maxime Bernier in the only sense that I like his ideas. But here's the question for anybody who wants to vote PPC. Why can't he get a seat? Oh, I know, because he spends all of his time in Florida. He doesn't actually campaign here. He only shows up when it's important. Just like I just said. When it comes time for those elections, Max shows up and he talks, hey everybody, look at me. Let's talk about the politics. He's happy to talk about it when he needs your vote. Why is he hanging out in Florida whenever he's not running? If the PPC wants to be taken seriously, they need to get rid of Max. They need to find a leader who's willing to put in the work and not just say, hey, I agree with all these people that are labeled as radicalists. I'll take the underdog approach and say I agree with everybody that's fed up with the corruption, that's fed up with everything. Keep in mind, Maxime Bernier used to be in the House of Commons. You think he's any different than Uniparty? They need to turf Max. I like him as a person. I ran into Max at Winnipeg Airport. We had a beer. I chatted with him. I was going to have him on the show at one point. But then I kind of same thing. I chatted with him enough to realize that I mean, I like him as a person, but I don't think he's a good fit for the PPC. If he was, he'd get his seat. Yeah, Tim's saying Bernier needs to go. He does nothing for the PPC. It's when they start getting seats, when they get some momentum, and when they can get people to buy into what their party wants to sell, I'm all on board, guys. People think that because I live in Alberta and because I support Pierre in this next election that I'm typical Albertan conservative. I'm more leaning libertarian than conservatism, if that makes sense. I think taxation is theft. I think that the government should know better than to just leave me alone. But when you've got guys like Max that claim to think alongside the lines of a libertarian, well, you got to put in the work, Max. You got to get your seat. How many times has he run for seats and he can't even get it? And here, HonkTube saying it perfectly here. Everybody wants what the PPC offers, but they can't deliver. And that is the problem. Keep in mind, I voted PPC in the last federal election. I normally don't tell people how I voted, but I'll tell you why I voted PPC, because I wasn't voting for O'Toole, and I certainly wasn't going to vote for the Liberals or the NDP or the bloody Green Party. But the fact of the matter is that when I went to the polls, I said, well, I don't want to throw my vote away. I believe it's my obligation as a citizen to vote. I agree with the policies of the PPC, but I said it's a throwaway because they're not going to get any seats. And I knew that going in as somebody who likes their policies. So any PPC bros who want to get on my ass and say, oh, you're not a PPC supporter. If you were, you'd vote regardless. Guy, it has to make sense. It just has to make sense. I'm all in, but you got to get the momentum. Why did they pick O'Toole? I'll tell you why. There's a lot of things that go on in the House of Commons, and this is part of why I said I dropped out of the mayoral race. When I was invited to the House of Commons, you see a lot of backdoor stuff that goes on. Who people talk to, who they're tied to. Keep in mind that before Justin Trudeau, a lot of these leaders, even though they spar in question period in the House of Commons, they'd sit there and yell at each other, and then they all go out for dinner at the end of the night. They're all the same. Sometimes it's a matter that somebody helped somebody get somewhere and they owe them. Sometimes it's what these people promise certain businesses or certain lobbyists that they push the rest of the party to say, this is going to be our representative. This is who's going to run. We're going to, pump their numbers. We're going to make sure that we got enough people supporting them to make sure they get in because they owe us favors. There's many reasons O'Toole was picked. I can assure you it wasn't because of the popular vote. I remember back then screaming at the TV because I wanted Pierre to run then. Because I liked Pierre back then. The glasses, the loudmouth MP, the financier who was standing up saying, you guys don't know a damn thing about money. You're all corrupt. You're all messed up in the head. I miss that Pierre, because the same thing happened as soon as he won that leadership race. I still like Pierre, but I hate what his party has done to him on the optics end with the t-shirts and the slogans and the just stick to the cue cards. We liked Pierre before this. He didn't have to sell us. We bought in before he was leader. I was cheering the day he announced he was going to run for prime minister. But the more time I've spent in this game, the more time I've spent around MPs, around politics, around politicians, you start to realize that this is no different than like a TV studio that's worried about its ratings, or a business that's saying, how do we come out on top? It's not about us. It's about them. And I hate saying it. I really hate saying it, because I am a bit of a naive moron when it comes to who I prefer. I like Pierre. I like that he wants to get rid of GST on houses, because that's going to save. Look, we talked about it the other day. If you look at an $800,000 home, that's going to save 40 grand. That's 5%. He's giving you back your down payment by saying the government doesn't need to take the money that it's taking. We can find it in other places. Thank God. I agree with that. Stop taking my money. But there are things that Pierre is going to do that I'm not going to agree with. And I can assure every single person here who supports Pierre, who says, I can't wait for him to become prime minister. I can't wait. There's people who have said Pierre is going to save us. I'm telling you this with all due respect. There will come a policy, because don't forget, this is going to be a majority government. There will come a policy you don't agree with that'll make you say, ooh, I don't like what's happening there. And do you know how I know that? If you're in Alberta, look at Danielle Smith. Everybody was celebrity mode with Danielle as soon as she got elected. Oh, yes, yes, we got Danielle. Now, I like Danielle. I'm glad she's our premier. I hope she stays on as our premier. But with her AGM coming up, you've got a lot of people, including very vocal people on social media like Marty up north, that are saying she's got to get out of her job. She didn't do things fast enough. She's got to go. We don't like the things she's done so far. We don't like some of the things she's stated. She's only been in for a year and a half. What do you think is going to happen when Pierre puts a policy forward that people don't agree with? Do you think people are going to give him time, or do you think it's going to end up like Danielle Smith, where a bunch of people say, oh, this isn't what we were told. This isn't what we were promised. We got to get him out of here. Again, I'm not trying to be negative against Pierre, but I'm trying, like I said earlier, the point of this channel is to open your guys' eyes to politics in general. I have to put aside my bias of who I want running the country and treat you like intelligent human beings and say, can we look at the bigger picture, please? Let's all cheer for who we want to win, but we got to keep our heads on a shoulder. And the reason we got to do that is because we dropped the ball 10 years ago as a country. And we got there by cheering on the popular vote, by cheering on I'm mad about this one decision, but I'm not going to look at everything they've done. I'm not going to look at their track record. I'm not going to vote on policy. I'm going to vote on who's popular. That's why we're here. People are mentioning, John's mentioning cheering on weed. It's the only reason Justin got in. The decriminalization of marijuana was the only reason Justin Trudeau got in. Remember what happened to the nice guy, Joe Clark? Yeah. That's a good example, actually. It's Brock spoke against C-63 in the House. I mean, that's good. And again, I'm not saying that the Conservatives are doing a bad job. I'm just saying that if you do what you have to put your eyes in the eyes of a politician. You got to play the long game. They want you playing checkers when you should be playing chess at this point. They just want to give you those breadcrumbs and go, here, eat up everything we're saying and believe us. And we're going to make the world a better place and everything's going to be great and grand. All it takes is Justin Trudeau to leave. That's not it. There's a lot of things that got to improve in this country. People got to get fair wages. We got to slow immigration. We got to build more homes. We got to make food. We got to make fuel. We got to make our products affordable again. We have to have legislation that ensures that retailers aren't taking advantage of consumers. We have to axe taxes. We have to lower income taxes or raise wages. Lowering taxes is the answer. Ultimately, the government needs a reality check on its spending, but we can't keep printing money and saying everything's fine. I'm telling you, as somebody who is selling their home right now, I never envisioned that it was going to be this much of a nightmare. This country has gone to hell very fast. And when everybody talks about this housing bubble bursting, it's not going to burst the way people think it's going to, but it's here. And I'm not just saying that because I'm salty about my house. I'm telling you as somebody who has watched the real estate market for the last 15 years actively. Why did I watch it in the last 15 years? Because 15 years ago, my wife and I started saving up for our first home. 5 years later, we bought this house. And throughout those 10 years that we've owned this house, I've been watching where are the property values going? Where do I think they're going to go? When's a good time to sell? And I'm telling you right now, my realtor's baffled. I'm baffled. Everyone in this city is baffled because in Calgary, you used to be able to put your house on the market and have your house gone within 72 hours if it was appropriately priced. Now, we have tons of inventory. People are taking their time when they're buying now. People are chasing prices coming down. People think that my home has a problem because we've had to reduce our price so many times because we're chasing the dollars down. Because other houses drop $20,000 and they can't sell. And then they drop another $10,000 and can't sell. Then everybody else goes a little bit lower and the other ones aren't selling either. We're chasing it down right now. Is it going to go by 50%? No. I've said before, I believe in a 5 to 15% adjustment when it comes to real estate. I think that when people talk about the bubble bursting, that's where it's going to go. But problems like that need to be tended to, especially when you have people 2 months ago that were buying houses for roughly 7 to 8% more than they're worth right now. Those people are going to lose their shirts. So what we need to do as Canadians is open our eyes to a broader scale and take off the rose-colored glasses that, yes, we can cheer for people like Pierre Poilievre. We can say, yes, he's going to be better than Justin Trudeau. Of course he is. A monkey in a diaper would be better than Justin Trudeau at this point. I'd take who's somebody I can really throw in there? Who's the how dare you? Greta? I'd take Greta over Justin Trudeau. Because she wouldn't be as corrupt, at least. She'd be just as stupid, but she wouldn't be as corrupt. Anything is better than Justin Trudeau at this point. But the importance of accountability. And a lot of people thought I was salty when I said, I'm mad when I talked to Pierre's guys. And they said, look, we like you, we like the pleb, we like all these other guys, we watch you guys. They stream House of Canada during question period because they like to see what the audience is saying on those live streams. They like getting the inside pulse. But when it comes to your channels, God, we just got to stay away from you guys. We got to keep our distance because of our optics. I do take that as an offensive comment. And it's not because I'm salty about my channel. I've said multiple times, go on Northern Perspective, go on Pleb, go on Moose on the Loose, Clinton Jaws, go on any of these other channels. You don't have to come on my channel. But when you say we have to steer clear of you guys, there's 470 people right now on this channel watching live and an average of over 1 million viewers a month that come to this channel to get their news on politics. You're telling me that 1 million people, 1 million eyeballs aren't worth your time? That because our views align with your parties, that we're somehow radicals too? Or are we worth talking to? The pleb sits at over 150,000 YouTube subscribers. He sits with over roughly 3,000 to 4,000 people on his live streams. You're telling me that it's not worth their time to go sit down with the pleb and talk about policy and talk about why they're going to be good for this country and get down to earth with the voters? When they say those things, it's not the saltiness about coming on the channel. It's the saltiness that you're telling me you're good enough to run my country, but because we're talking out on an online platform against Justin Trudeau and against policy, you don't want to risk coming on our channel because we want to talk real politics, not softballs. That's a problem. That should scare each and every one of you when it comes to voting. If politicians don't want to sit down and talk to real people and take real questions, they're phony. They're going to disappoint you. They need to stay on their toes and they need to be held accountable. MP Holland, he sits in the front row. And if you don't know who MP Holland is, he's an East Indian conservative, sits in the front row right by Pierre Poilievre in the House of Commons. I talked to him at this Stampede breakfast when I was there with Pierre. And I said, you should come on my show. He said, absolutely. I would love to come on your show. He gave me his card. He gave me his assistant's card. And his assistant said, call us. We'll set it up. We're eager to come on. We'd love to talk with you. We'll discuss policy. Happy to come on. Why can't we get that from Pierre? Why can't any channel get that from Pierre that isn't True North? Right? That isn't tied into politics. Don't forget, Andrew Lawton's running for the Conservative Party. They're playing it safe. And when you tell me that you can't talk to everyday Canadians, it tells me that you're scared of what we might ask you. You're scared of how that's going to make you look. DMAX says he seems nice. Are you talking about Holland? He's very nice. All of them are. Pierre's nice too. I'm not shitting on Pierre. They're all nice people. What I'm saying is that if you're a politician and you're really there for the people, you shouldn't be hiding from them or saying we need to keep our distance. Now, to that extent, I will also say that I understand a portion of that when you reflected on incidents like when Jeremy McKenzie trolled Pierre Poilievre with the whole photo bomb and how that made the party look and everything else. But like, you remember when Pierre came out of that trailer and everybody flagged him because there was a Diagolon sticker on the door and stuff? Those are all staged filming events. They get the people to go to those locations and Pierre shows up with a camera with his people and it's all scripted. It's all part of the act. It's all part of filming a commercial, a political commercial. I was supposed to set something like that up with Pierre for 2 straight years after How the Prime Minister Stole Freedom came out. I was going back and forth with his people about every 2 to 3 weeks. Well, his assistant mostly. But I digress. If you want people to buy into what you're selling, if I was Pierre, and I'm not saying this for my channel's benefit, I'm saying for any YouTube channel that gets a considerable amount of views, you should be going on those channels because your voters aren't watching mainstream media. Your voters are on these platforms voicing their dismay for this current government. They're talking about all the things that they hate about the current state of our country. They're talking about policy that they want enacted. They're talking about how they want change. I see so many people on this channel talking about how they're seniors and they can't afford to live, how their pensions give them nothing. I've seen people on here tell me they're homeless. I don't know how they're watching the videos, but they're telling me they're homeless. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at that or chuckle. I'm just throwing that in there. Those are the people that Pierre should be talking to and listening to, because we're the ones that are going to keep him there when he becomes prime minister. It's not a flight risk to talk to somebody. Don't go scripted. Show us the real person on any channel. Please don't think I'm saying it's got to be mine. I know somebody says on phones. I get it. Look, the point of the matter is that I tense up when I hear of a politician saying that, hey, you guys push our message and you guys do such a good job promoting us. You'll see the pleb put out a video last week showing another YouTuber that Pierre called and said, keep up the good work. Do you know why he did that? Because the guy has a huge base going out right now of people growing on his channel. It looks good on him. I don't see Pierre saying, I want to come sit down with you and have a conversation. It's all optics. Stop saying you want to keep your distance from us. Stop with the slogans. You've got a year, guys. I know some of these MPs watch the show. I know Pierre's guys watch this show because, again, we talk. Guys, go on a YouTube channel. If you want to come on this channel, hey, I'm flattered, but go on any YouTube channel that covers politics. Start talking to your base. Start talking to people and give them a reason to trust that you have their best intentions at heart. Listen to what the people are saying. Not just photo shoots, not just scripted commercials. So Danny's saying the pleb's ego is pretty big. You got to understand pleb plays a character online. I know the pleb personally. He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. I believe that if you're going to run this country and that if you're truly running for people, if you're going to say that we want to make life better for people, we want to hear what people have to say, actually listen to what people have to say. Again, as I said earlier, Pierre, you've already sold us years ago. You don't got to convince us anymore. And I'll tell you right now, I feel like his points would go up if he was to start talking to people outside of scripted, planned, filmed promotions and events. There was a video he once did where he was filming about the cost of housing. And the video turned into him helping a guy who was going to fall off of a fence. I don't know if you guys seen that video. It was in Vancouver. And they used the video because the raw footage was just so good and sent such a good message that I looked at that video and I said, as a guy with a marketing degree, I'm telling you right now, those are the kind of things you should be putting out there. Not the slogans. Show that you're a human being. You're relatable. Because right now, when I see Pierre Poilievre with the slogans and the nice suits and the paid house that we provide him, I know where he grew up because I'm a 5-minute walk from his childhood home. I can imagine that coming from a home of 2 teachers, he was brought up very responsibly. He had a loving home. He knows what it means to see hardworking individuals who don't get credit for the work that they do. I think that Pierre is based. But I also have to believe that the people behind his campaign, the people who market for him, at some point have to stop scripting everything and stop thinking that this is all a show. Stop trying to fool Canadians and start showing them why you're good for Canada. I feel personally like we would relate so much more if they just came down to earth instead of trying to join the club, so to speak. You're saying I'm getting a little tired of the slogan representatives during question period. It is getting old. We all know the slogans. We all know what Pierre wants to do. That's why I'm saying I'm missing the crack whip Pierre that we used to have in the House of Commons. Now, Pierre does get... Dan thinks it's hilarious Pierre's based. I'm telling you right now, again, so the area of town that I live in, anytime you've seen Pierre filming from his childhood home, that's a 5-minute walk from my house. There are a lot of businesses in this community. Pierre even said at a rally in Calgary that his mom was considered almost like the mayor of this community because she was, active in this community, there are a lot of people who know the Poilievres. And anytime I'm in businesses that know who they are, that know Pierre's parents, they have nothing but good things to say about them, nothing but positive things about them. And again, I have to believe that as a kid being raised in a house with two teachers, teachers are very underappreciated. They work hard for very little reward. Um, I would assume that a guy like Pierre, from what I've gotten to know, is pretty down to earth. He's pretty based. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he was brought up with good values. Now, does that mean that his time in politics hasn't swayed him one way or the other? I don't know, because I don't follow him around 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But what I can tell you is that from a kid who came from a home with what sounds like a similar upbringing, he seems to have been given very core values, um, and raised right. So hopefully, he does the right thing when he's prime minister. Again, he's not going to do everything right. I'm willing to admit that. Do the Pierre Poilievre men's boxer briefs in the merch store come in medium large? They only come in extra large, because you got to be able to fit those cojones in there. That's I'm gonna answer your joke with a joke. There you go. John's saying he has that vibe, but I'm afraid power is going to change him. That's part of the problem, is that, and this is why I'm saying that I'd like him to go on YouTube channels, or at least talk to people in a more public setting, non-scripted. Fuck it, we'll do it live, right? That's pardon the cursing, but I try to keep it PG. But it's when you get a majority government, even if I like that government, I don't believe that any government should have a majority government, because power does corrupt. You get comfortable. When it's simple to pass the things that you think are within the best interests of people, again, not every policy is going to be something that we agree on. I think that too much power is a bad thing. So hopefully it doesn't happen. Yeah, I seen the apple in the comments. You know what's funny? When I talk about that stream last night, I was chatting with Snatch afterwards, and we said, what would have made that whole stream funnier when Rexer was going off with his opinions, is if I would have had an apple nearby and just started eating the apple on stream. I think it would have been hilarious, and I wished I'd have preemptively thought, if things go sideways, that's going to make it funny. But I didn't think of it until they mentioned it, and then it's like, oh my god, that would have been so funny. DMAX's person to person personally is the best way. What I'm trying to get at is that, so yes, I agree with this. He either gets a majority or he won't be able to do anything. I get it. But what I'm saying is that I'm talking in generalities. I'm not saying that we don't need that majority in order to, get rid of the carbon tax or any of those things. Yes, it's good to get a majority for those things. But what I'm saying is that any government should never have a majority. Justin Trudeau should have never had a majority government in order to pass all the things he did. Look at what he did with power. That's my point. It's not necessarily about Pierre or the next sitting prime minister. I'm saying in generalities. And if you're going to be allowed to have majority governments, then there should be term limits. Yeah, here it is. Allison's got it right on the head here. Policies. Trudeau got voted in for daft reasons, and he got away with so much, and his policies were crap. But he had a majority government, right? And L. Cox here, Canadians are not looking for perfect, just someone who aligns with Canadian traditional culture. Lose the woke crap. That's where I'm saying I feel like for the people who are marketing for Pierre, especially his assistants who think they know everything about what the voting public wants from Pierre, I'm telling you right now, and I'll use that pancake breakfast I went to as an example. I stood 5 feet away from Pierre for a good half an hour. My daughter was with me. She was asking questions about who's this, who's that, what do they do for the government. She's so interested in what I do on YouTube. My kids are probably my biggest fans. Probably my only fans, but but it's what really appalled me at that Stampede breakfast and made me sick is you have a 2-hour lineup of people. Sorry, I've got a hair hanging down in my glasses, so I'm not picking my face while I'm talking to you guys. It's just itching it. Um, you've got a 2-hour line of people waiting for two pancakes on a plate just to see Pierre, to get a photo op with him, to tell them, they're rooting for him. And everybody who comes up and says, "Oh, we need to get rid of Justin, we got to this and that," it was like a robot at Disneyland. Like, you ever see the Trump robot at Disneyland, or the Lincoln robot? It was kind of like Pierre had it all going on too. He had a belt buckle that said "Axe the Tax." He had his aviators, the cowboy hat, the tight shirt. He was pulling the image off. He was really rocking the Western look. But then every time somebody said something, it was slogan, slogan, slogan. And it was so robotic because he'd say, "Oh, it's good." Like, they'd say, "Oh, it's so good to see you, Pierre," and go, "Oh, it's good to see you." And they'd say, "Well, we're so looking forward to the next election." "Well, that's why we got to axe the tax, and we got to stop the crime, and we got to build homes." And then the next person would come up after taking their selfie, and it was the same thing for half an hour. Everybody who was in line was happy to see him. I'm not going to lie; they were happy to get to talk to him, to shake his hand, to meet him, get a photo with him. But if his marketing team thinks that that's what the general public wants, they're going to get sideswiped real fast. More people would have felt better if he would have just had an open discussion with them. If they said, "We're so happy to get rid of Justin," if he would have said, "Well, I'm going to do the best I can for you. I really appreciate you coming out. Hopefully, you have a good meal, you enjoy the Stampede," things like that. Get away from the slogans. Resonate with people. Again, you're talking to a guy who spent a good portion of his career marketing and advertising. What you're doing is so textbook, and it's so old dinosaur method. It may have worked now, but what Pierre's marketing people have to look at is, are the polls accelerating because of Justin Trudeau's behavior and terrible job, or are they accelerating because of the slogans? I'm willing to bet more people are leaning to the Conservatives because of Justin Trudeau's terrible, terrible failures, more so than slogans and policy for Pierre. I think people have just had enough. That's not to say there aren't people voting for Pierre on policy. I'm saying that a large number of those polling votes, those 20 points that he has the lead on, are people who have had enough. Is this a question for me? Did I want a picture with Justin Trudeau instead? I would love a picture with Justin Trudeau, because I'd hold up my book in that photo and just embarrass the shit out of him online with it. I think it'd be hilarious. Is Clinton Jaws is Clinton in the chat? I keep saying I want to get Clinton Jaws on here. I want to chat with him. Is there a troll in here? Yeah, Clinton Jaws is in here. I'm catching up on your stream. I used to live in the Kensington area. How are the prices in that area now, Clinton? Well, I mean, it's cool to know you were in Calgary at one point. Kensington's a nightmare. It's insane. Unless you got a kidney to donate, good luck getting anything in the Kensington area. That's insane. Gorgeous part of town, though. Love going around there. Welcome into the stream. Great to see. Good to see the Jaws in here. It's you got to get some shirts or something that have that, Clinton. We're gonna need a bigger boat. It's bring them on live. I got to be honest, we're already an hour and a half into the stream. I don't think we're going to be going much longer. I got to get content filmed for you guys for tomorrow. I would like to bring Clinton on at a time where we've got more time to sit down and chat. He had a really good chat with the pleb earlier this week. I watched that. Thank you for the kind words, by the way, Clinton, as well as the pleb on that stream. You guys gave us a shout out here, and I appreciate that. Again, we're all in this together. We're all in the same boat. And I think the more of us that get the message out, the better. Everybody seems to think it's about, clicks and views, and let's make sure we keep it all exclusive in here. No, I want to see everybody succeed on this platform. I'm happy to see anybody from any of the channels come in here. Again, Radio Reaction hangs out in here. I've told you guys before, go follow his channel. a lot of good content out there, guys. Another channel that I'd recommend checking out is RPN, Red Pill North. They they put together some really funny music videos and AI style clips. They brought out one today of Christian Freeland singing about crocodile tears, and it's a banger. Go check out RPN. They got some good stuff. I'm not running out of steam. Oh, snatch! He's running out of stream or steam. It's not happening. Speaking of running out of steam, this Friday or Saturday, we're going to be live this Friday with Mrs. Fringe here on the channel. I always like Mrs. Fringe being here because I don't know if you guys know this. I only see her for about 2 hours a day by the time she gets home from work. We got the kids going into bed and getting things organized for the next day at school, kind of thing. So I always like having her sitting here with me because she keeps me grounded. But it's good to actually spend some time with her once in a while. Speaking of spending time with her, Saturday, again from 7 to 9 p.m. this Saturday, if you're in the Calgary area, Shanks South, on McLeod Trail South in Calgary. So November 2nd from 7 to 9 p.m., I will be there with Mrs. Fringe. I will have books for sale. People have asked me to bring them. Otherwise, I wouldn't have. But I will be selling books on hand at $20 a piece signed. Again, it's just easier if you got to take money out of an ATM. I'll sign your existing books if you bring them. There's no charge to sign your existing books. We'll do selfies. We'll sit and chat with you guys for a couple of hours. It's kind of our going away party, even though the people who bought our house backed out. Our house is still on the market. We're still hopeful to sell soon. Again, the market is just absolute dog shit in Calgary right now. We've been on the market now for 9.5 weeks going on. And again, we're the cheapest house in the neighborhood and one of the better looking ones. So it's beyond me that we can't get anybody in here who's serious. The majority of people who are coming to look at the home have been pre-approved, but they're not in a rush. They're never in a rush. So we'll still do the going away kind of meet and greet in Calgary this Saturday. I didn't want to cancel it. And then that way, when the house is sold, we can just focus on packing and going because we're probably going to try to do it as quickly as possible. And then when we get to Spruce Grove, hopefully sometime early in the new year, we can do a meet and greet out there for everybody. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be great to see all you guys. I'm looking forward to it. Still say go with a raffle for what? Oh, for selling the house. You got to get a license for that. I'm not going to go get a license and do that. It's no. But if any of you are in the Calgary area and want to buy the Fringes house, I'll tell you right now, it's priced at a deal. it's below market value. My realtor, and again, I'm going to have my realtor on some point to talk about the bubble, the housing bubble. He felt terrible because these people used the plumbing in our house as an excuse to back out because they didn't know what they wanted to buy. They got rose-colored glasses over brand new build houses. So they used our plumbing as an excuse to get out, even though there's nothing wrong with it. He felt terrible. He cut his commission. So now the house is actually priced below market value so that we're still getting the same amount of money, but we've cut off his commission to try and sell it faster. So hopefully somebody picks it up. They're going to make a good profit when they buy this house because like I said, it's undervalued at this point. Snob buyers. It's not so much snob buyers, but that they made an offer on this house. And they were all for it, but then while they were waiting for their inspection, they kept looking, I guess, and they went and looked at a brand new build and saw all the nice things they can get. Keep in mind, a brand new build's about $150,000 more than our house for the same square footage. But they went and said, no, we're going to go get into that. It's too bad. We really liked what new builds offer. Well, you should have looked at them before you put an offer down on another house. But our realtor, or at least my realtor in Spruce Grove, believes that what they did was, said to the inspector, please find something that gets us out of this. And and this is, Kenzie has it perfectly on here. The house is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. And that's, but the thing is that all the houses that are going lower in the neighborhoods, nobody's picking them up, right? They're not going anywhere. Nobody's moving with them. So the market has just slowed down so much. I know a lot of that plays into interest rates and waiting for those to catch up and other things. But we're not sweating it. Like I said, at some point we're going to get out of here. it's nobody's brainwashing anybody. nobody's brain. I'm watching Daphne. I'm watching the market. I'm watching other sales. Anytime I go driving through the neighborhood, the houses that have been up for sale, in our neighborhood and the neighboring communities, they've all been up for sale. There's no sold signs on any of them. Um, it's I. It's not about his pocket. He's not taking his commission. He's cut his commission out. he's Our realtor said he felt terrible that he's not taking his commission anymore. Um, so we're not paying commission on the house sale, and he's still promoting it to sell it. So, um, oh, not you, silly. Their realtor's brainwashing them. Okay, well, possibly. Sorry, Daphne. I'm sorry to get wires crossed there. Um, I don't know. I mean, my realtor in Spruce said, they kind of feel that if it was the inspector that spooked them, that sometimes she says, I feel like these inspectors do this because ideally, according to this realtor, inspectors are supposed to come in, find any major problems, and then essentially what you do is you go back to the buyer or to the seller and say, look, either these got to be addressed or we need some money off the cost of this house in order to fix those things. And you come to an agreement. But she says there are cases where they'll come in and spook the buyers, but they usually do that because if they do such a good job, the buyers will go find another house and hire them a second time. So it's like a double dip. Because these inspectors don't really care. Now, that being said, I do know there are some inspectors who watch this show. This again was just a conspiracy that the realtors sent out. So I'm not saying that this is what inspectors necessarily do, but it just comes across that way sometimes because why else wouldn't anything work? Now, the reason I know that it was an excuse is that, again, even with the realtor cutting his commission, we went back to the buyers and said, look, $7,000 to replace the plumbing, we'll do it. We'll do it before you take possession. And they still said no. So it had nothing to do with the plumbing. It was just an excuse to get out. Um, it is what it is. But it's we'll see where the market goes. We'll see where things go. Again, we've still got our house in Spruce. The builders have said that unless somebody else comes with an offer, we've still got our names on it until we sell this house. So we're not worried about anything yet. We're still moving through the process. It's moist Noodler, you can have a phone and be homeless. Yeah, again, I said earlier that I don't know how people are watching videos. Look, I look at the costs of getting these phones are expensive these days for video and stuff. I know what's the average iPhone now? Like $2,000? Like it's I'm not saying homeless people can't have phones. I'm just saying that it's shocking when I hear people are homeless watching YouTube. It's more that end of it. Um Please don't take offense to think that I'm saying that homeless people can't have nice things. It's I just bought in Edmonton and there was a F up with a realtor. Yeah, that happens. That happens. Um, John, I agree on the Apple comment. Yes. I don't buy, I stick to Android. Um, I'm just so overblown at the cost of devices these days. Let's start wrapping up the stream, guys. Let's get some Q&A in here. We've gone on late enough and the heater's on in this house. It's starting to get hot with the lights. I'll be looking for question marks down in the chat. If there's anything you guys want to ask in the Q&A, get it down below. I always like wrapping up that way. I think it's great because you guys get to ask whatever you like within reason. I mean, nothing sexual, nothing deviant like, but hey, throw it in there. And let's throw in the Q&A and then why is the plumbing bad, says Chris. So what we have in our house is what's called poly B plumbing. It's a type of plumbing that was used in the 90s, going into the 2000s. Now, my house was built in 1994, so was the majority of this neighborhood. So just about every house in this neighborhood is going to have poly B plumbing. It has been known to leak, and they say that it only has a shelf life of about 10 to 15 years, I guess. But they've said that if your house is going beyond that and the plumbing is all intact, they mostly just inspect to make sure there's no leaks, there's no issues. And if that's the case, you're mostly fine. Insurance companies will still insure a house with poly B. It's more just a gray area that people don't use it now. They don't want to use it now. And it's just an old method. But inspectors do come in and say, oh, this is a no-no. You can't, because I know when we had our dishwasher installed, when we first moved into the house, we bought a brand new dishwasher, and they had to redo the line that was Poly B coming into the dishwasher because they said they can't install on Poly B anymore. So we had to pay extra to have that done when we first bought the house. So I know that it's no longer used, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's just an old method. Red saying, did Scott Moe win? Yes, he did. Yep. Can I do a plumbing video this week? That's about all I know about plumbing, so there's not much more I can do on it. That's what we got here. I'm looking for question marks. Sorry, guys. Freeland used the toilet. That's the problem. I wouldn't let Christian Freeland in my house if you paid me $1 million. I'm sorry. That's I certainly wouldn't let her use my toilet. That's what are the next winning lotto numbers? I can't share that information. I'm keeping that to myself, but thank you for asking. Will Danielle get reelected? I think so. If you're talking about AGM, will she get through the AGM? I think so. Reelected? I'm not so sure. We're going to have to see Stinger again. I've always said that the numbers were so close in the last elections in certain critical ridings, and Nenshi has that Muslim vote. It's going to be it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Danielle. I would like to think so. We'll see where it goes from there. Daphne, thanks for joining us on the stream tonight. It was great to have you in here. Hang on. I'm looking for question marks. If you guys have any more Q&A, throw it up. In the intro, was that real with Justin Trudeau falling down the stairs? Yes, it is. That was a clip he did with an interview where he was showing his skills as a drama teacher in stage falling. He fell down the stairs intentionally. Rob's saying they don't just discontinue good products. No, but products evolve over time and they start using different products. That's all it is. They found better ways. It's not like it's like, asbestos where it's toxic or something, or there's a major problem. Let me see. I'm getting caught up in the chat here looking for explain the BC election. I wish I could. The fix was in, as far as I'm concerned. Once you start bringing in those mail-in ballots and the numbers all of a sudden jump the way they did, again, I go back to yesterday's dumpster fire stream. How else do you explain it? How else do you say, like, all these votes just pour in all of a sudden, the numbers jump exponentially when it was neck and neck for the last week? Come on, give me a break. It's CBC had one with him falling down the escalator after getting hit with a dart, and was funny because it was a stunt double. Yeah, there you go. Have you noticed that within a year of every election, Trudeau brings in a mass influx of immigrants, and they all get status to vote? Yeah, well, that's the whole point. And I've said it again. Pierre talks about slowing immigration. Now, keep in mind, he's talking about slowing it. He's not talking about turning it around. All those politicians love immigrants because they don't know anything about our political system. They just vote for whoever brought them in. It's maybe a demo video of your plumbing flushing down a couple kgs of meatloaf as a demo. Snatch, you're into some weird stuff, man. That's falling down the stairs didn't get bring him to his senses. No, he should have been pushed down the stairs. That might have done a little bit more. Mike TV Dub saying mail-in ballots have to be banned. It's too easy for shenanigans. That's the problem. I mean, again, Rexer was on last night saying, I'm a mail-in ballot guy. He championed the mail-in ballots. And then when I asked him about people burning ballots and ballot boxes with Trump votes, he says, well, that's a red state anyways, or a blue state, so they're doing more damage to the blue votes. Come on. It said in the article they were mostly Trump votes that were destroyed. Have you always lived in Alberta? No, I grew up in Winnipeg. I was adopted at birth. My folks were from Winnipeg. My father was from Scotland. He moved here in the 70s, met my mother. They got married, filed for adoption because my mom wasn't able to have kids. Um, while they were waiting for the adoption process to go through, my father was transferred out to Calgary through the company he worked with, and they thought that was their chance in line to, have to start this all over again because they moved provinces. Luckily, they were able to keep things the way they were. So in 1980, when I was born, they went out to Winnipeg. They got me, and then they came back to Calgary. So I lived in Calgary till I was 5. Moved to Winnipeg from 5 to 15, and then came back to Calgary after that. Even though I was born in Winnipeg, so born Manitoban, raised in Manitoba. Spent the majority of my life in Calgary, but I've only been in those 2 places ever. I'm looking forward to Spruce Grove because it's going to be a change. I've never lived in a smaller town, never lived outside of a big city. I think it's going to be great. If we can ever get this curse of a house off our backs and get out there. You collect video game machines, says Spamburger. No, and I've mentioned it a few times, but I'll do it real quick. Um, any of the ones that aren't the Donkey Kong Jr., these are what are called 3/4 scale arcades. I started collecting these out of nostalgia. Are they the highest quality machines? Absolutely not. Um, but they're 3/4 scale representations of their original counterparts. I like them because they don't weigh very much. You can move them around easily. We essentially started collecting them during the pandemic because we were locked in the house and the kids were bored. My mother was diagnosed with mesothelioma. She was going to pass. She passed in 2020. Um, but before she passed away, she actually bought me my first arcade machine of these 3/4 scales, and my kids kind of took to them. Really enjoyed them. They were very young at the time. Um, and when you buy these things, you assemble them kind of like IKEA furniture. So we started buying them and collecting them throughout the pandemic, and having nights where I'd build them with my kids, get them touching screwdrivers and figuring out how tools work. And then we'd enjoy playing the games. And even on certain nights, we'd go to the dollar store, we'd buy little prizes, and they'd get prizes like a Chuck E. Cheese style. We even had little tickets to give them so they could play games and get a little toy at the end of the night just to keep them sane while everything was going on. Um, but yeah, I enjoy the arcades too. These are I'm not a sports guy. I don't partake in a lot of different things. The video games is kind of um how I kick back and relax. How many video game machines do you own? Out of all of these, I think I own about 13 total. I'm looking to get a couple more when we move. I'm looking at a second pinball machine because they've come out with a new 4K model. Um, a few things might change in the arcade when we move. We'll see. We'll see. Has there been a total of legal guns collected by BB Castro? I have no idea. I have no idea, but we shouldn't be giving them up as easy as we are. Um, I'm not a sports guy either, unless it's FIFA World Cup or Euro. Yeah, Rob from Canada saying open an arcade. No, none of these take money. I couldn't, except for the DK Junior. I couldn't modify the machine to take Canadian quarters. So when I went to the United States last summer, when we took the kids to Silverwood Theme Park in Idaho, I actually had to pick up a couple rolls of quarters so I could put American quarters in the DK machine. So with the dollar at its current levels, I've actually made money by doing that. So it's kind of neat. Um, what else do we got here? What else do we got? We can't stop anything from coming across the border. People, guns, drugs. What is the purpose of border patrol? Well, you can say that in any country, though. Things get over the border in every country all the time, right? Um, I'm saying I miss Mortal Kombat. I love Mortal Kombat. It's oh really, really halal chicken or Popeyes? Damn, we go Popeyes. You ever had their classic chicken sandwich? I'm telling you right now, they must put crack in that or something. Because as soon as they opened a Popeyes in Calgary, the wife and I tried one. Now we're sold. We haven't touched KFC since. As Adam Sandler said in Little Nicky, Popeyes chicken's freaking awesome. It's it's will Trudeau and Singh get married? Well, in this day and age, anything's possible with the way people identify, right? It's Chick-fil-A. I haven't actually had Chick-fil-A yet. I've heard about Chick-fil-A. They're opening one in Calgary. Um, I'm not sure if I'll still be here by the time it opens, but It's Mary Brown's is way better. I don't know where your Mary Brown's is, but if it's in Calgary, it's god awful and it tastes like shit. We had it one time and it will be the only time. uh I had bad food poisoning from A&W twice, never going there again. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. KFC sucks. It's not the same anymore. Yeah. Well, they changed. Oh my God! Listen to the fat guy talking about chicken. KFC. They got rid of the trans fat oil and they started this new form of doing things that it doesn't taste the same. It's not the same. We got a bad everything at Mary Brown's. We got the screaming Mimi's when it was done too. I'll never go back there. It was nasty. It's at least the one in Calgary. I and again, because we tried it and it was so bad, I just probably wouldn't try it again. Um, I think it's time for a grind my gears segment. You know what really grinds my gears? Viewers telling me to talk about grinding my gears. I'm kidding. Oh, one of these days. KFC is destroyed. Well, here's the problem. When you start virtue signaling by bringing in things like halal meat, like there's no need for it. There's no need, guys. Stop. You go woke, go broke. I won't even do it. And not only it's not healthy. I know given my physique, I'm in no position to talk about healthy, but no. Peter. uh, God, you guys really get into that, eh? That's I used to love Harvey's too. They're hard to find now in Calgary, especially. They've shut down a majority of them. Um, you missed your calling. I wanted to do that kind of work when I was in my younger years. I've been doing voices since I was a kid. Or do you have any South Park quotes? Like I said, drugs are bad and good. Or we could talk about getting rid of all the Mexicans. I used to be able to do Eric Cartman, but the problem with Eric Cartman is that his voice has changed over the years. And once you stop doing Eric Cartman for a while, it just sounds horrible when you try to start up again. Your throat has to get to a certain scratchiness level in order to be able to do his voice, and I don't even attempt it anymore. Um, Good. uh, I gotta say that anytime I watch South Park now, I don't watch it as frequently as I used to, but when I catch their special episodes that they put out, like the hour and a half episodes and stuff on Paramount, Randy by far is my favorite character on South Park. It's like he's turned into the Homer Simpson of South Park, like he's the dumb idiot. I love do Kyle's mom. I'm a dude. I can't do that voice. 18 Mountain Dews. Oh, you know what's funny? I got into Mountain Dew zero sugar or Diet Mountain Dew because they used to have Diet Mountain Dew before zero sugar. People, I know I'm going to see it in the comments. I'm already waiting. You're going to see, oh, it's aspartame. I've talked to my doctor a million times over, and he says there's no study that says aspartame is bad for you, unless it's in extremely high doses to the point that he says I would have to drink a whole pallet daily in order to get any kind of issues from aspartame. Um, and he also said if you're getting away from regular soft drinks, diet drinks are probably way better for you than that. But I digress. The reason I brought it up is I got into Diet Mountain Dew because of the calorie counts. Because I was saying, well, there's no calories. Um, I've got no issue with sweeteners or aspartame, so I got into it so that I could still drink that stuff. I have a very low metabolism. So anytime that I eat anything, I've already got like a gluten allergy. So if I eat a sandwich, I go up a waist size. Same thing with soda pop. If I drink it, I just balloon. Um, if it's regular soda pop, but the diet stuff, I'm usually okay. So I got into this long stint of Diet Mountain Dew and now Mountain Dew Zero Sugar when they swapped it out. Um, I only drink about a 12 case of cans every 3 weeks. So it's not like I do it often. Um, but after I got used to that, like if I've ever gone somewhere and they don't have zero sugar, like if I'm on the road or something, and I just feel like a Mountain Dew, I can't drink regular Mountain Dew anymore because now it tastes like drinking a battery. I don't know what it is. Like if it's Mountain Dew Code Red or something, there's no problem. But regular Mountain Dew versus the zero stuff, like once you get used to the diet, it has this weird taste. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that. It's drink water. I drink a lot of water. I mostly do water. In fact, one of the things I really got into recently, Prime. This is, and a lot of people are going to say this is bad. And what's really funny is I actually talked to my doctor about this. I took a bottle in and showed it to him. There are the Prime energy drinks. The cans that you get of Prime are horrible for you. I would never want to put any of that in my veins. But this stuff is actually coconut water. It's got B6, B12 in it, potassium, no sugar. It's all, again, artificial sweeteners. I think it's 20 calories a bottle. I like it because it keeps me hydrated. It keeps me hydrated for the majority of the day. I'm a fan of it. I know it's a Logan Paul drink. That's my biggest gripe against it, is that it's like, it tastes so good, but it's that jackass all over it. I don't want to do that, but I really like Prime. I've gotten heavy into Prime. I don't want to promote them too much because they should pay me to promote them with the amount of money I give them to buy their products. They came out with this one this summer that was like a strawberry lemonade, and it's absolutely amazing. If you ever see the yellow Prime lemonade, if you don't want the calories from regular lemonade, I'm telling you, go get one. It's the best tasting lemonade I've ever had in my life, and it's awesome. Oh my God, it's awesome because there's no sugar. It's amazing. I love it. His brother's gonna, no, you're talking about Jake Paul. Isn't Jake Paul the guy who owns Prime? I didn't think it was Logan Paul. Either way, whoever's Jake Paul's is going to get his ass fed to him by Mike Tyson. Every time I mention Prime, Logan Paul gets a boner. I mean, hopefully he can at least find it now, I guess. I don't know. Mountain Dew's pee in a bottle. Oh, it's Logan and KSI who own Prime. Okay, well, either way, yeah, I don't keep track of those guys. I was in the store one day, and like, here's the thing: I used to like things like Powerade until you start seeing like Powerade, Gatorade, how much sugar goes into those drinks. Um, I just didn't want any part of that. Body Armor started coming out with stuff, and then they had like Gatorade Zero and things. Not a fan. Even bottled water, like if you look at companies like Dasani, the amount of sodium that's in the Dasani drinks, forget it. Can't touch that stuff. And the biggest problem is that if you're going to get water on the go and you buy it from a store, like a convenience store, a lot of them are sponsored through companies like Coca-Cola, that the majority of their waters are Dasani, at least near where I live, or Aquafina. And again, the sodium levels are too high. I don't want to touch that stuff. That one day I was looking at this Prime and I was thinking, I was told this stuff's bad for you. But then as I looked at the nutrition label on the side, you start going, this actually doesn't look as bad as it sounds. So again, I had one and then I took it to my doctor and said, am I okay to be drinking this? And he says, well, how many do you have a day? I said, maybe 1, 2 if I'm lucky. He says, you're fine. No problem. He says, these actually aren't that bad for you. It's Big Mac with a Diet Coke because I'm trying to watch my figure. Have you guys ever heard that Tenacious D sketch? I can't listen to Tenacious D ever since that "next time don't miss Trump" quote that they had. But they had that really funny sketch where they're in the drive-thru and Jack Black saying like, fill up a soda, half Coke, half Diet Coke, because I'm trying to watch, my figure. Oh, it was funny. It was funny. If you promote products that are heavily carbon taxed, Trudeau will sponsor your channel. Hey, cool. I mean, that's fun. I do have a great sponsor coming out soon. I'll give you guys a little bit of a preview. Even though it's not part of my agreement, it's okay. Mike Freedom Honey, his wife, Sherry's got this awesome company called Calendars That Curse. They do more than calendars. She has sent us a lot of people don't use calendars anymore because they have their phones. They have all these different things. But I'll tell you right now, if you're in an office or if you're at home and you want something that's really funny, I'm going to be showing you guys some of their products. They have F. Trudeau calendars and Freedom calendars and all these other things. Um, I haven't had a calendar in my home for decades or quite some time. In fact, I don't think I've ever had a calendar in my home since I bought this house. They're going to grace my wall for as long as I live here, and they're also going to be in my home when we move to the new house in Spruce Grove. They've got some awesome, awesome products, and I can't wait to show you guys what they sent out here for a sponsorship on this channel. I think it's amazing. I try to, if I'm ever going to sponsor anything, I try to sponsor something I think you guys are going to enjoy. And I'm telling you right now, this is right up your alley. You guys are going to love it. I can't wait to show it on the channel soon. They wanted me to wait for November before we start getting their ads out. Can you do Rocky? I got to have a couple of shots of whiskey in me to do a Rocky. Get my voice low enough. I mean, there's a lot of Family Guy stuff I can do. Like, I can sometimes do sort of a Cleveland and be like, oh, that's nasty. I can do Glenn Quagmire. Giggity, 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 goo. Oh, and I've done Stewie sometimes. But do Joe Swanson. That's another one. You have to have a specific voice for Joe. I can't get it low enough for dude. You're talking about Mick. You gotta eat lightning and shit thunder, kid. Who doesn't love Mickey? Pacino? Hooah! Who can't do Pacino? You gotta have a distinct voice to do Pacino, because it's like you gotta get nasally and you gotta be like, oh, look at what we got here. Look what's coming out here. It's terrible Pacino, but you need some work. You gotta get the voice right. Bad Pacino. That was a Pacino off the cuff. I've never actually tried to do Pacino. I mean, I used to love doing things like, oh yeah, I used to do the Macho Man, and I used to do a pretty good one talking to people about wrestling. Oh yeah, let's talk about that. That's why I got Macho Man on my opener. I used to have a running gag when I was on other YouTube channels about being yesterday's news and things with the Macho Man. I mean, who doesn't love Macho Man Randy Savage? Can I do the Roadrunner? The Roadrunner didn't have a voice. I can't run like the Roadrunner. If you see me, oh my God, I'm a fat guy. You can't, no, can't do the Roadrunner. Oh yeah, I got you for 3 minutes. You're going nowhere. I used to do a pretty funny Ric Flair too, but again, I gotta have my throat in the right place. Usually liquor helps. It's I got a good Cuban voice for Scarface. Have you guys ever seen Master of Disguise with Dana Carvey? It was a terrible movie, but there were so many funny bits in there that it's just like it's got a cult following because of the little bits. I really liked the Cuban guy that he played in that, where he was like, "Let me tell you something, my friend. Okay, I see on your tray you got little wieners and tiny nuts, and they're gonna get stuck in my esophagus." I forget the name of the character he had for that guy, but it was so hilarious. You haven't been drinking? I haven't drank in a long time. I'll tell you right now. Clyde did a live stream where he wanted me to pretend to be drunk so he'd get more super chats. But I haven't had a drink since my mom died. So I haven't had a drink since 2020. I can't. I've casually had like one, if I'm doing a barbecue or something like that, but like I haven't drank. Just because I'm more worried about where my emotions would have gone at those times that I just haven't touched liquor. We also had my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, passed away. She was adopted Indigenous into my wife's family with FAS, addicted to alcohol. She passed away as part of her addiction. Again, booze kind of doesn't really have a strong place in our house because of it. So yeah, I don't drink that often. It's um yeah, some people think when monetizing on YouTube, they got all kinds of little quips to get people to do things, and I'm guilty. I ran along with the request because you're trying to help a friend out, you're trying to do the right thing for them, and they were drinking, and it's like, yeah, I'll have some fun. I'll play the part. It's There was booze in my cup, but I wasn't drunk, if that makes sense. But it's yeah, I'll play the part. Everybody was having a good time, so that's it. It's What books have you written? I've done well, we've done How the Prime Minister Stole Freedom, the redacted special limited edition that's no longer for sale of the How the Prime Minister Stole Freedom. Let's Go Brandon, One Face, Two Face, Black Face, Blue Face, Hold the Line, The Ballad of Tamara Leach, The Young Kid's Guide to Groomers, which again is now banned. We are not allowed to sell it because of legal issues. Um, How the Prime Minister Broke Canada. Um, Just Axe the Tax. Did I miss any? I don't think I've missed any. I hope I didn't miss any. I also wrote a chapter novel back in the day before the pandemic. I was slated to write a trilogy, a book trilogy, kind of like a Harry Potter with superheroes. I had a book that came out called Vincent McLeod, Prophecy of the Six, and yeah, it was essentially like a Harry Potter with superheroes. It was about a teenage boy who got this suit that was kind of like a Venom suit, like it could synthesize into anything he wanted it to: clothing, outfits, weapons. He could store things in it and break it down molecularly into his arsenal. I had I've talked before about how I was consulted on the book by Stan Lee when he was still alive, and it was purely by luck. I ran into him at Comic Con. I pitched my idea to him, asked him for some pointers. He invited me to the hotel he was staying at. We met in the lobby and chatted for a good couple of hours. Um, and I stayed in contact with him up until he passed away. And he was a very nice guy. I had a very funny story about a signed comic he gave me that I actually got after he passed away. Um, but the book flopped because of the pandemic. I wasn't able to promote it, go on tour with it. We had a whole bunch of stuff lined up for it to try and push it along. Ultimately, the book never really sold anywhere. I know Mystical, one of our viewers, he's read the book, he loved it. At some point, I'd like to finish the other two books in that series, but it's too bad that it turned out the way it did. But it's not so somebody says try again with DC Comics. So it's not a comic book, it's actually a novel. Um, it's and that's why Stan gave me advice on character building, but he kind of said, "Look, oh geez, I don't know anything about drawing, about writing characters." He said, "I know it's a terrible Stan Lee, but he he gave me a lot of advice about how to make a character relatable." He often pointed to Spider-Man, and he had a very good point. He says when you talk about Bruce Wayne, when you talk about Tony Stark, he says they're rich. People can't identify with rich. That's why they made Tony Stark an alcoholic. People could, you know, they could try and feel on the same level to anybody they knew that had an addiction or any kind of problem. With Bruce Wayne, it was the loss of his parents. And I know Bruce Wayne's DC, but he says you have to make your characters relatable. And he says one of the reasons that he felt that Spider-Man was so well received in the public eye was because he was a teenager with common problems. He had acne. He had to juggle a girlfriend in his secrecy, a job, paying his rent when he was in university. All these things. He had great advice, and he was a great guy. And I didn't talk with him often, but the time that I did get with him, boy, some of the best conversations of my life. And as a comic book collector and a nerd, I got to say he was a man who truly loved his fans. Because I even asked him, "Why would you give me your time when I'm just a guy? You don't know anything about me. I didn't have a name for myself. Um, I just had an idea." And he says, "I don't get to walk the floor at these conventions. I don't get to see what people are putting out there." He says, "And I don't work at Marvel because I'm more like a face of Marvel. I'm an ambassador. I'm not involved in the business anymore." So he says, I still like to see what people are bringing up. And part of what he said got him on board with what I was doing was that I told him that I'd been working on this book for almost 7 years at that point, and I said, I'm juggling different ideas. I had about half of the manuscript together, but I was struggling with parts. And I said, my wife has stood behind everything I've done from day one. She wants me to get this story out. She thinks it's great, but I feel like giving up sometimes. And he says it reminded him of when he was struggling in comics, because before Marvel started, he was drawing and writing comics um, for low end newspapers and small companies that distributed them in magazines and things like that. And he says he told his wife at one point that he was going to get out of comics. He was going to become an accountant through his brother, I believe it was. And his wife said, he said, I had this idea for a comic. And his wife said, do the comic. And if it goes nowhere, at least you tried. At least you got it out there. At least you found out where it went. And he said, okay. And that comic turned out to be the Fantastic Four. And the rest was history. But he says that my story kind of reminded him of that by me telling him, my wife was supporting this, that even when I'm ready to quit, she's pushing for it. He says that's why he wanted to see what it was all about. And I'm very grateful for the time that I had with him. And God, what a guy. What an amazing, amazing guy. How long does this live go on for? I mean, I was kind of wrapping it up a while ago, but then we got into a little bit of um, a tangent there. It's somebody asked if my kids are ready for Halloween. Yes, they're doing fun little school thing tomorrow. My son is doing a Fortnite costume. My 8-year-old. My daughter, she's doing a costume of a character from this show called Has Been Hotel. I don't like that show. It's got a lot of coarse language and things in it. But again, all of her friends watch it. She's 10. And I said, look, if like I was watching stuff with cussing in it, like Robin Williams and stuff when I was 10 years old, I know what it's like being a kid at that age, that if mom and dad say you can't watch it, they'll find somewhere to watch it. But she's doing this costume from that show for Halloween. My wife and I are doing Ghostbusters. I've got my proton pack all ready for tomorrow. My movie replica proton pack. I've got the flight suit, the whole outfit. Everything's ready to go. I got my wife a female Ghostbusters dress costume because she doesn't want the flight suit. So we got her a more party oriented Ghostbusters outfit. But I did get her a replica proton pack so that we could have the same level of commitment. But it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then my youngest, Steve, he's going to be a character from this kids show called PJ Masks. That's where he wanted to go. But Ghostbusters sounds perfect. Well, here's the thing. You know what? I've brought it up on stream before, but I'll do it again because it's right next to me. Hold on. Hang on, guys. Oh. So, here's my proton pack. It when Mrs. Fringe bought this for me, it was because getting a movie grade proton pack was very expensive. Hasbro Pulse brought these out after Ghostbusters Afterlife. And if I flick the switch here, so it's a full movie scale proton pack, and it's heavy as shit. She said that if she bought this for me, it was going to be my Halloween costume for pretty much the rest of my life. And I was good with it. Because when I grew up as a kid, there were certain things as an 80s kid. Clinton says that's fucking awesome. Thanks, Clinton Jaws. There were certain things you want as a kid growing up in the 80s. You want a DeLorean and you want a proton pack. And as Egon says in Ghostbusters 2, the proton pack is not a toy, but this one happens to be. So I bought my wife another one of these. So we both have matching proton packs. We're going to do the whole thing. Maybe I'll get a photo and throw it up in the community posts tomorrow when we're out with the kids. Yeah, Halloween's going to be fun. Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. It's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to it. It's Halloween's always been fun in this house. This year it was a little different because again we're focusing on our move. That I've got probably close to $10,000 worth of Spirit Halloween animatronics and decorations that I've collected over the last decade. That again we didn't hook up. We usually have the house covered head to toe. Halloween's like the Clark W. Griswold Christmas in this house. Like I go balls to the wall. But we didn't this year simply because again we were moving. A lot of it's packed. We were convinced at one point we were moving in the next 3 weeks. That again I didn't have um, time to get it all out and through the house while people were looking at the house and are still looking at the house. So we have to have it staged. So unfortunately, we couldn't do that. But next year, I'm hoping we can get all that out and have more fun. There were no chicks in the Ghostbusters, just a secretary. Well, I mean, the secretary did join the cast in the newest movie, so I'll take it at that, I guess. I'm not acknowledging the 2016 nightmare of a movie because we haven't even watched it. I refuse. I will not. Does it shoot out candy bars? No. It's an unlicensed nuclear accelerator. It doesn't do that. That's not how it works. That's no. That's on that note, ladies and gents, I've pulled this stream on long enough. I know you know what it is. Again, I've said it a million times over. We have the greatest community on this platform. No offense, Clinton. I'm sure you've got a great community too, but the best one resides here with the Fringe. You guys are fantastic. We could always talk for hours, and I'm hoping again to chat with all you guys again that are coming out this Saturday for our meet and greet, our final goodbye from Calgary over at Shanks South from 7 to 9 p.m. Again, November 2nd, Shanks South. Hope to see you guys there. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Myself, Mrs. Fringe, we're looking forward to meeting all of you that can make it. And again, for everybody who's up near Spruce Grove and Edmonton, yes, I will be organizing as soon as we get out there some kind of event for you guys as well. Kind of a welcome in. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have a great Halloween. I hope you get to see, the kids having a lot of fun in your neighborhoods and have a good time and everybody's safe. Look after each other. Again, Clinton Jaws, if you're still around, reach out to me on Twitter. Send me a DM. Let's get something set up to have you on the channel. I think it'd be great to have you out at some point. Go give Clinton Jaws a follow. Give Radio Reaction a follow, guys. Anytime you see these political channels, give them a subscribe. Show them your support. Like I said, we're all in the same boat. We got to get out there. We got to be active in this community to make sure that everybody's voice is being heard, that we're promoting each other. Because we all want the same thing. We want Justin to get the hell out of here. We want real sunny ways. With that being said, guys, have a great rest of your week. Again, I'll have something new for you tomorrow morning here on the channel. And then join me Friday for Friday Night Fringe. I look forward to seeing you guys in those live streams. Until then, guys, stay safe. Enjoy your Halloween. I'll catch you on